Well, good evening, everybody. It's Captain Mike here and Captain Ron. Sergio is not going to be here this evening. He's got some other issues dealing with the moving in his house and all that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, he won't be with us this evening. But welcome to the new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome,
I'll
Ron,
do.
to joining us
Yep.
this evening,
Thank
filling
you.
in.
I'll do what I can to fill in for Sergio, but I'm sure I'm no Sergio.
Yeah, no, real easy. We just have a nice conversation about fishing.
Yep.
But
No
I hope
problem.
everybody had a good New Year, good Christmas, and all that. We'll see on the side, see who shows up, and takes a look at the podcast this year. There may still be a lot of people out for the holidays, but we'll see. Um, but we definitely want to talk a little bit. Hey, Alondro is on. Hey, Alondro. This weather lately has just been a little insane. We've got some warm spots, we've got some cool spots, we've got a lot of wind, and past couple of weeks has been a little rough out there. Um, we went from 70-degree water down to 50s, higher 50s, lower 60s, on back up to mid 60s. We got the full moon going on, so it's just been kind of hectic trying to find a lot of fish out there. Um,
Yep. I've noticed there's some of the biggest negative tides this past week
yeah,
that seen in a long time.
Yeah, there has been, and that full moon, it was really close with the full moon recently, and it got to the point where there was just no water anywhere. You
Hmm.
were stuck in the river, or I'm sure stuck in the bays fishing, just because it that full moon will pull that tide out directly. And then, unfortunately, when that happens, you've got that low water, and then that cold snap comes through is just going to chill that water down quick. So it's just not the greatest conditions, but we still try to get out there and have some fun.
Right?
I know,
You got to fish.
yeah, I know you guys went out there to Steinhatchee,
Oh yeah,
and on that cold day,
it was cold.
yeah,
It was around 30. It could have been in the high 20s. I don't really remember, but you get to a point where it's so cold it doesn't matter.
yeah,
It was cold.
it's cold. Yeah, I know our little run today. We went out about 10 miles today, and we were only doing about 30 mile an hour, but I didn't bring enough clothes. I mean, we were freezing out there, shaking for a while. And they said it was supposed to warm up, but it wasn't until like 12 o'clock that it warmed up. And we were all just cold, cold.
Yeah.
But that's the fun time about this year. It's you just plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Trying to
But
stay dry, that helps a lot.
that's the biggest key. That's the biggest key is just staying dry.
Yeah.
But because that it's no fun getting in that water or getting splashed. And there's a couple of times with that wind blowing 20 to 30, you take that turn and you get those waves over the side of the boat that just kind of get caught with the wind and chill you to the bone quickly.
Mike, I know
So,
we've had a lot of fluctuations in the weather lately. What have you been catching, or what have you been targeting fishing for?
well, for the most part in the wintertime, we don't have the snook anymore. It's off season. I mean, you can catch them, but it's kind of off season. So we try not to target them too much. So mainly for the wintertime, we're looking at mangrove snapper because they get up in the river. We look at trout, we look at redfish and sheepshead, which the season is going to be starting here soon. We've caught a few in between, but this soon they're going to stack up here in about February. So right now it's just those species that seem to be, the biggest target species that we're going for because it's actually the only fish that you can bring to the dock to fillet for your clients.
Yeah.
Um, but the grouper are moving in quite a bit too. We're catching a lot of grouper out there as well, and they love this cold, especially here in Crystal River. So they come into the shallow rocks. They pretty much follow the sheep's head. Um, you still have a few here and there, but when the sheep's head get in the shallower rocks, you pretty much find the grouper just following right behind them. Um, so it's kind of what that pattern tends to tends to happen.
I know Sergi and I
Um,
fished with you about a month ago. We also caught a few triple tail. I don't. Do you catch many triple tail this time of year? Or?
no, they're pretty much they're gone either offshore
Yeah.
or way back in the backcountry. You don't really see them all that much right now, which is a shame because it's stone crab season, and we've got a lot of buoys out there. And there's a ton of buoys where you would think that they'd
Yeah.
be all hanging all over there. So, but no, unfortunately, when it gets down to these colder temperatures, they either drop down deep or they go find someplace in the backwater they can hang. But don't see too many of them out at this time of year. I don't know. I don't know a ton too much about triple tail as far as their migratory patterns and if they actually go down south to the warmer waters, or they just kind of disappear. Which my assumption is they disappear into the deeper waters or to the backcountry like most other fish would. So, and they just prefer that warmer water to hang up there on those buoys with. So don't get too many of them. Um, let's see. I do know. Oh, the grunts, Key West grunts. We've been catching just a ton of those. And today we caught some nice bruisers out there. So that's the other thing that gets really a lot of activity is the grunts because they'll move in on those rocks just before the sheep's head and they're just all over the place. And they're nice sizes too. And just throwing a jig with some shrimp on it around these rocks, around the rock piles, and you're going to find those grunts quite plentiful in those places. So
I
that
don't know
seems
if
to be
you. Yeah, I don't know if you have this problem. I'll call it, but it seems like when Sergi and I go to a spot and there's a lot of Key West grunt, it seems like we don't catch a whole lot of other fish. Is that just because there's so many grunts? It's hard to get through them all, or
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, we do have that on certain rock piles where all you're doing is catching grunts. And then if that's the case, we'll catch a few and then we'll move on to another rock pile. But it just kind of depends on the area. And I know when we were there in Tampa Bay and we were kind of hunting around, seems like that's what we were all catching. We caught a few, I think a couple other things. I think we caught a grouper or maybe a small mangrove snapper here and there.
yeah,
But a lot of times those grunts will get in those schools and they will, inundate a rock pile. And that's all you're going to catch. So you just kind of have to move on. But that's a little deeper water. Like I said, here, we're only dealing with anywhere between 6 to 10 foot, maybe 20 foot every once in a while. And you still get a mix. I mean, we caught grunts, we caught sheep's head, we caught trout, we caught grouper off
yeah.
some of the same rock. So, but again, the grunts that we did catch were larger ones, not the small schoolies. So that might make a difference as well. Yeah, they were definitely there, but not as much as what we found there in Tampa Bay that time, where it was just one right after the other.
What kind of bait? What kind of
So
bait you fish with this time of year?
right now, this time of year, because of the water's cold, you got two baits that most everybody uses is mud minnows
Uh-huh.
or the shrimp. And that's the shrimp have been an issue, especially with the cold weather that came in. There was a couple days, a lot of us captains were scrambling around trying to find a bait store who actually had shrimp.
Yeah,
So it's just one of those things. And thankfully, I was able to find them for a couple charters. But with that 20, 30 mile an hour winds, the cold snaps, everything else, it affects them going out to catch the shrimp. So from Yankeetown all the way to Homosassa, nobody had any shrimp for a couple of days. And it kind of gets a little hectic there when you've got charters. And the only thing that most of these fish you're catching are shrimp, and you don't have it. Not even frozen shrimp. I
oh
mean,
wow.
they were completely out of everything. So that's why it's always good in the wintertime, especially here, if you do have shrimp and you have some left over, take them home, keep them cold, put them in the freezer, and save them for those days because it's going to happen where you're just not going to have that shrimp. So it's a good thing to keep a little extra on hand. Don't just throw them back in the water.
The same with the white bait. Just freeze some. It's always good to have something frozen if you're desperate.
Yeah, it is. And you can still catch some ladyfish. There's a bunch of ladyfish in the river. There's a bunch out there on the flat, so you can still catch some ladyfish and use the ladyfish for cut up bait for reds and stuff. And I've caught trout on it as well and chunked ladyfish, but your bite isn't as prevalent there. But the only good thing about trout is if you do get them out away from the river, because the river being as rocky as it is, it's harder to jig the bottom with it with plastics. But if you're out on the flats or out in some of the other creeks in the back and you do find trout, I've caught a ton of them on plastics. So that's the only saving grace. So if I didn't have shrimp, I'm going to go to the flats, or I'm going to go out there to a creeks that is not as rocky. He's got a little more grass to it with some potholes, and we're going to throw plastics all day. And you'll do pretty good with catching those trout then as well. So, and that's pretty much what you have to. It's just the thing you have to deal with here.
Yeah, it was Sergio and I went to Steenhatchee last week, and we fished for 2 days, and that's all we fished with. The guy we went out with doesn't use shrimp. He just uses plastics. That's it.
Yeah.
So we're throwing plastics all day.
Yeah. And that's great if you have the clients who are able to do that. Majority of the clients that I find, that say they go fishing or have fished, they're not accustomed to using the jig and twitching and just kind of using your wrist to pull that up and just feel for it. And because most of the trout, when you're fishing for trout, they're going to hit it on that drop. So it's very vital when you're popping up to basically use your wrist. So when you feel a little resistance, if using your whole arm, that rod's moving so much.
Yeah.
So just using your wrist to pop that up, you're going to feel a little resistance, and then you can use the rest of your arm to get him, because they're going to hit that bait on the fall where you're not going to feel it. So you're going to feel them as soon as you pop it up. So using that wrist, just moving it, put my wrist up here, just moving it just up and down like this is going to be your best bet to catch those fish hitting that bait on the fall. Because then you can kind of pop that up a little bit, and then you can raise it up if you don't feel any resistance, because 9 times out of 10, that resistance, that's a fish.
Well, I'll be honest, I love fishing with plastics, but at 30 degrees at 7 a.m., I was starting to see the benefit of a live shrimp sitting on the bottom.
Yes.
with my hands in my pocket.
Correct. Yeah, well, that's the other benefit with fishing with shrimp. You can kind of put a shrimp on there, throw it out there, and just kind of, wait for something to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of lazy fishing, but it's
hopefully you got the little hot pockets in your pockets, keep your hands warm. Because it's a lot easier to do a lazy man's fishing in the wintertime than it is the summer. Summer, you kind of want to move a little bit in that warmer weather, but in the cold, you just want to stay still and not move too much. So it's kind of fun. Well, we got a couple of fishing reports this evening. We're going to probably do them about every 15 minutes. So why don't we get Jessica's fishing report up there, Hota?
Hey guys, it's Jessica Hanabik with You'll Hook 'em Charters out of Chaska, Florida. Hope everybody had a great Christmas and New Year's. So now it's time to get back to some fishing, which I kind of been doing even with the holidays. I've been using some shrimp when I can get them. Sometimes with this cold and it being the holidays, they weren't open and stuff. So I was using some dead shrimp, using just a 2-aught hook with a slip shot. We've been fishing the negative low tides on that incoming, which can be a little sketchy, and a negative 0.5, negative 0.6 here lately. But once you get there, the fishing's been pretty good. We've been finding some of the honey holes, which have been holding some nice black drum, some sheephead. I've been getting into some nice trout 20s and over in the backcountry. Haven't seen much snook action going on in the last 2 weeks. The redfish seem to be doing really, really well. So if you want to get out there and experience Chaz, call me 352-464-7309.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, she looked like she had some nice black drum there. Those are
Yeah.
good sizes to eat. And we haven't come across a whole lot of black drum, which is surprising us right now. Normally, this time of year, also, I forgot to mention black drum is a good type of fish to go after in the cooler months because they'll get stacked up in the rivers and in the creeks. But I haven't found a lot of them yet this year. And again, this fluctuation with the weather just, I think it's just got everything kind of wonky. So who knows? Maybe it'll get a little better. I do know up near Yankeetown, a couple of those places there, they're definitely catching some nice black drum up in that area north of us. But so far in the river, it's just been kind of hit or miss, hit or miss. Hey, Jim and Josh showed up. How you doing, guys? Happy New Year. But the one thing that she was talking about, those negative tides, and that's something that we've got a lot here. I know down there in Tampa and stuff, you get the negative tides, you see a lot of flat out there, but here when we get the negative tides, it's just dangerous because it's just a lot of rocks and a lot of oyster beds that are there that can seriously hurt your hull.
Oh yeah.
So when we got those negative tides, what we're trying to do is you're trying to get to some of those holes that are when the tides are going out and you still got a hole of 2 to 3 foot where everything else is about 6 inches. That's where a lot of these fish will congregate. But trying to get to those holes, you're having to go through a gauntlet to find them. And that's where it can get a little scary, especially if you've got some very, very strong tides going through, ripping over some of these bars, and you're just clunking along with the bottom of the boat or your skeg or trolling motor. I mean, it all happens to us at all times here. But just be cautious out there because it'll get you stuck and hurt real quick. Talking to one of the guys on the boat today, Joel, it happened to him coming out and damaged his boat, not realizing it. And he had an aluminum boat and trying to take off and just didn't feel right. And he looks behind him and it's all full. So it happens, and it happens that quick. So thankfully, he had the knowledge to just pull that plug and just start going, let that water run out, and just run with that plug out and get back into the dock and get them safe at home, get it welded up. But yeah, it doesn't take much to get hurt around here with those negative tides.
When you guys have so many rocks, I mean,
Mhm.
even when it's not a negative low tide, there's plenty of rocks to run into. So
Yeah, there is, and it's just a dangerous place, and but it's doable once you understand it, once you learn it, and that's one thing I tell people. In fact, I'm going to be taking out a gentleman here hopefully this week, running on his boat. It's a veteran, and he's unable to do it like he used to. He's disabled. So I'm going to take him out in his new boat. He doesn't get to run too often. Kind of show him around a little bit and show him what to do. But the best thing to do is to run during the low tides, see what's out there, kind of mark them, kind of understand where you can go. And that way, the next time you go out, you're aware of how close or where those dangerous rocks and everything are, because it's just not a fun thing out here. We were out 10 miles on one of our wrecks out there, and we're 10 miles out, and within 2 foot below the boat, we were right on top of it. 2 foot below it, it's sticking right there.
really,
So it doesn't take much, and it's normally on a regular tide, it's about 5 to 6 foot below you. So these negative tides are really, really dramatic. And
Wow.
just have to be it's just insane. But so far this week looks really good. Tides aren't too bad. It looks like we got the lows during the day here in Crystal River. So you want to hit that first outgoing tide in the morning. It's going to be probably your best bite for that outgoing tide. kind of sit in the holes if you got one. If you can get to a hole, sit in the holes as the tide turns, and then fish it for a couple hours of that incoming tide. And that seems to be our pattern, getting that outgoing tide and then a little bit of the incoming tide. Once it gets up too much, then the bite kind of peters off a little bit, just because you've got that influx of cold Gulf water being pushed up. So these fish tend to shut off a little bit. And hopefully you have a sunny day. The sun definitely helps when we're out there, especially in wintertime. Always fish the south-facing banks and mangroves points, because that's what's facing the sun, and that's where those fish are going to sit up there and warm up. And if you do see those rocks during the negative tide, those rocks that are sticking up that are really, really dark and the sun's been beating on them, once that tide starts getting up, those fish are going to hug those rocks, because those rocks have absorbed no heat. Oyster bars or anything, the sun it's absorbed that heat, and those fish are going to hug those things real close to get as much residual heat off those rocks that were exposed for as long as they can. So just another little tidbit of information that we do. And muddy banks. If you've got those really hard muddy banks, especially around the sawgrass that just going to cut off, well, that bank facing south, that's all dark mud. And that stuff gets really, really hot. So as that water gets up, those fish will stick right next to those banks. And it's a good place to start if you're going through those creeks, see those muddy banks, along with all the sawgrass. That's a great place to start, because those fish are going to be stacking up in there just trying to get warm, just like you and I. That's why I wear dark clothes in the wintertime. Absorbs that sun. So tell me about your trip to Steinhatchee there.
Oh, we went to Steinhatchee. I think, we fished last Monday and Tuesday. And the cold front came through up there Monday night. So we went out Monday. It was a little windy. We got rained on a few times.
Yeah.
So we got really wet. We did very well with trout. We caught some redfish and we caught some flounder. Had a few bluefish, kind of a variety, but trout action was pretty good.
Yeah.
And we fished probably from about 8 to 2, and we had more than a limit. So most of the fish we threw back. Caught a couple of nice fish. I'd say probably 4, 5, 6 were over 20 inches. I don't recall if we measured any of them, the bigger ones, but they were nice fish.
Yeah.
Went out with Captain Niall Bryant. He's local. He's been there for about 35 years. He actually lives on the river, just about the last house on the river. So a lot of the time we were fishing, we could actually see his house. So he really knows the area, and we had a good time. He's a good captain. So, and on Tuesday, the cold front came through, and it was, like I said, it was probably around 30 degrees in the morning. I don't remember. It was cold.
Yeah, I saw a little live shot from Sergio off the boat.
Yeah, Sergio didn't fish. He didn't fish for about 30 minutes that morning.
Yeah.
His Cuban hands were cold, and he was really freezing.
Yeah,
So,
I bet.
He just didn't have the right kind of gloves. So, but it's cold. Not everybody wants to go out when it's that cold.
No.
Early in the day, it was really cold, and we seemed to catch a lot of redfish. In the same place the day before, we had caught lots of trout. So we did really well on the redfish, and we caught some trout. Then a little later in the morning, we caught a few bigger trout. Like, I know one of them I did measure. It was like 22 inches. So it was a nice trout. And we caught a few flounder, kind of a variety. But the fishing was better the first day than it was the second day.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that it was such a dramatic shift in temperature.
Yeah, those are the tough days when the front comes through.
Yeah,
and
like I said, the
everything down.
redfish bite was good. They weren't real big, but we did catch quite a few of them. And then I think we kind of left early around 12 or 1 o'clock. The fishing last couple hours really slowed down.
Yeah.
And like I said, we fished with plastics both days. They use a lot of pinks up there. So we used the Flash and Assassin jig heads, and we used the Saltwater Assassin swim baits, paddle tails. I can't remember what the name of them were, but the anything that had pink in it seemed to do well.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
The color.
Yeah.
And I have not fished with pink a whole lot because people in Tampa Bay don't seem to fish with pink as much. But for whatever reason, I guess it's the color of the water. Pink goes a little better up there. So
Yeah. So how was Steinhatchee? Last time I was over there was right after the hurricanes, doing my other job. And it was how is it? Was it built back up so people know, or?
yeah, most of the lodging has been restored. That's their economic engine, so they try to get those kind of facilities up and running. But there's a lot of still a lot of damaged structures. A lot of structures are just gone, and they probably won't come back. With new building codes, it's so much more expensive to build now, so it's hard to know if they'll all come back. But they definitely had a lot of damage, and there's markers around town of how high the water got, and I'm just guessing it was probably 8 feet higher than any other hurricane had ever been, 8 to 10 feet higher. So Hurricane Helene was very, very damaging to that area. It was damaging here. I mean, my house in Tampa got flooded. Helene, so it's hard to imagine. They had a direct hit. How bad it was there. It was really bad.
Yeah. After, like I said, my other job, going to look at people's claims and stuff like that, to where their whole house completely shifted off its foundations and stuff like that. It's quite devastating. But I haven't been up there since then, and just kind of curious to see what the progress is, because it is a small town. It's not incorporated, just a few mom and pop stores.
Yeah,
a lot of homes.
Everybody knows everybody, and our guide that took us out, Captain Nile, said everybody kind of helped everybody, and did what they could, and it's honestly, it was in better shape than I would have thought it would have been.
Yeah.
So because it is pretty rural.
Certainly it definitely is.
There's certainly plenty of places to stay if you go up, and there's plenty of marinas, and there's all the guides are working. It's some of the uses that are like the condos. There's a few condos up there that are like second homes for people. Those haven't been repaired.
Right.
But if it was somebody's primary house, most of those have been repaired.
Yeah.
And most of the rental, a lot of the rental places have been fixed up, and there's no reason not to go there because the hurricane damage has been largely fixed. But just like around the Tampa area, there's some things that won't get fixed, and some just haven't been fixed yet. But fishing was really good. I haven't. That's the first time I've been fishing in Steinhatchee, and
I've yet to fish up there. I've visited the place several times, but never really fished up there. And I know it's kind of shallow. It's a shallow bay as well, but it doesn't have as much nasty limestone and stuff that we have
trout
here.
They are absolutely known for trout, and that's what our guide lives for, is to catch trout. While there are some offshore boats that go out and do the bottom fishing, they have to go out like 80 to 100 miles.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, that's not where I would want to go bottom fishing, because it's a long ride. But as far as the shallow water, and the trout and the redfish was excellent. And of course, they're known for scalloping.
Right.
And scallop season, everyone says the place is a zoo. As many boats as can fit, and there's no place to stay. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting. A lot of the houses up there, if they have a little bigger piece of land, they seem to have a couple of RV hookups for scallop season.
Oh
So
yeah.
they
Oh yeah.
earn a little extra money.
Oh yeah. Well, why not? You know.
No, 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 no. Like our guide had a house on the river, and he had 4 RV spots, and then some a big boat dock, and some room for people to dock on his. You know, when scallop season's in, you can stay with him, and you can tie up your boat to his dock. So
There you go.
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, a little extra income never
Yeah,
hurts.
never hurts.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
we had a
Jessica.
great time. Great time.
Yeah,
I
good.
wish you could have gone.
And we got. Yeah, I know. And again, I wish it would have been fun to go, but I just had a couple things I had to deal with here, so it's unfortunate. But yeah, because like I said, I've never fished up there. I really wanted to, but honestly, I'm not sorry that I didn't go because it was too cold.
Not good. I mean, we basically it rained the first day and it was super cold the second day. And
Yeah.
our captain is very good and knows where to go and how to catch the fish there. And he said if it had been better weather, we'd have done even 10 times better.
Yeah.
So, but we were pleased with the results
Good
considering the weather. It was really
Right.
most people wouldn't have gone fishing either day, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're crazy enough to do it.
Well, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Time off from work. So
There you go. All right, there, Hoda. I think we got Michael Dawson's report. We'll go ahead and get his on here real quick.
Hey guys, Captain Michael Dawson here, Patriotic Guide Service, here with this week's fishing report and forecast. So we've been taking advantage of this nice calm weather we've been having. It's been a little chilly, but it's been really calm out there. So we've been doing a lot of nearshore trips lately. Hogfish bite is in full swing right now. Lots of sheepshead are showing up offshore, grouper, snapper. It's a great time to get in that nearshore, offshore bite and capitalize and get some meat in the core. Hogfish, we're using either a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce pink jig head, tipped with a half a shrimp or a full shrimp. The half a shrimp seems to be doing a little better, but you can use half or full, catch them on both. Just catching some sheepshead while we're doing this, some mangrove snapper, of course, plenty of grunts. But it's a good time to get out there and try this. Inshore, it's been mostly a trout fishery, these cooler temperatures. Start checking from around the Anklet Power Plant Flat, around the mouth of the Anklet River, the islands off of St. Joseph Sound, Honeymoon Island, Three Rook are all loaded with these big gator trout right now, and they're only going to get thicker as we get through March here. Throwing a little John jigs, a little jig head with a little grub tail about yay big, or throwing some whitebait if you can find them, big select shrimp, or eating them all. Some redfish around the mouth of the river, some sheepshead up in the river. Our river bite really hasn't gotten the full swing yet. Probably need 1 or 2 more good cold fronts to get us there. But it's been a good time to get out there. Again, got some calm, cool mornings coming up this week. It's a great time to get offshore, do some of that near shore hog fishing. So get out there, be safe, be careful of the fog out there, and catch some fish. Captain Michael Dawson.
Hey, thanks, Michael. Yeah, he's got nice hogfish there. That's kind of what we were trying to do today, but we just couldn't find them. So
yeah, I was going to ask you, Mike, how far offshore you have to go to catch hogfish?
yeah, about 10 miles. And like I said, we had some numbers we were going to go on to, but by the time we got there, the tide was in full swing, and the bite was not on at that time because we spent so much time at the other spot catching these big trout and a few sheepshead and some mackerel and stuff that we spent too much time there. By the time we got over to where we really wanted to fish, the tide was moving so hard, it was difficult to keep the baits down there. The fish just weren't active as much. We lost a couple of some big slab sheepshead, but yeah, it just didn't pan out for us because that's where we really wanted to get some hogfish too. Because Buddy Misty, she had found some the last time there, so I was kind of hoping, but it just didn't pan out. But,
Is there a better time of year for hogfish in your area?
Not really. I think it's just if you're going out, you've got to hit at least what she was. One of the places we were going, there was about 16 foot deep. Most of the time, you're looking for 20s, 30s, somewhere in there. But anything in that area is pretty much where you're going to find the hogfish. And just like Mike had said, put a little smaller shrimp on there. The hogfish
Yeah.
tend to like the smaller shrimp than they do the bigger ones. And just put them on a jig head down there. And you're probably going to catch grunts and sheep's head or whatever else there, but those hogfish will get on there as well. But again, the smaller baits tend to get those hogfish a little bit better than the larger shrimp. And half the time, we're just cutting those larger shrimp in half and then putting them down. And it seems to work pretty well. So
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying that you get less of that bycatch if you use the smaller shrimp too.
you do. And that's, I guess that's another point, especially in the wintertime. I know our shrimp tends to get a little small in the wintertime as well. And that's not a bad thing because where they're getting the shrimp is basically where all the fish are out there anyway.
Yes,
That's
what
what
they're
they're
used
feeding
to.
on. Yeah. So in the wintertime, when you get those bigger shrimp, cut them in half, especially after a cold front, put the smaller shrimp on. I know you've got a big jig head, or try to get a smaller jig head if you can, smaller hook size, and use those smaller shrimp because that is probably going to produce a better bite than it would if you're putting on a
Yeah.
decent sized shrimp.
Yeah.
Um,
Sergio likes the smaller shrimp for the sheephead as well.
yeah, definitely. Sheep's head, especially. I mean, if you can get them in the one bite instead of just poking at it, and ripping it off, if you can get them in the one bite, it tends to do a little bit better for the smaller type shrimp for targeting the sheep's head, the hogfish, and all that, especially in the wintertime. Even redfish, trout, it's just the smaller baits tend to work a little better, especially after a big cold front that came through. Because they're not going to fish tend to after cold fronts they have to acclimate, and while they're acclimate they may feed, but they're not going to chase anything. So all they're going to want is something just small, minuscule little worms, little crabs, little shrimp that they can just suck in real quick and not use a whole lot of energy. Because the more energy they burn, it's more calories. They've got to warm that back up again. So smaller baits tend to work a little bit better.
Easier to digest.
Yeah. So, Jessica, we did a little bit of grouper fishing today. Didn't get any real big ones yet. I have seen some, but we didn't go to those places. But we're probably going to try to go out again this week and looking. But yeah, we need to get out there and do some shallow water grouper. I'll give you a holler when they're really plentiful. They should be coming in soon. But yeah, we should get out there and get you some more grouper.
What kind of baits are you using this time of year for grouper, Mike?
Believe it or not, shrimp. Works real well.
Everything eats shrimp.
Everything eats shrimp. Now if I'm going for grouper, then I'm going to use the bigger shrimp, obviously. And we caught, they weren't big, but we caught some nice grouper today. And they were all caught on shrimp. They'll just key in on it because the grunts and everything else are, going toward it. The grouper will just come in there and snatch it away from them. Especially if you got it bouncing on a jig head, the grouper will just come and get it. But I've caught them on soft plastics, the same thing I use for trout, just those little johns with the silvers or the dark browns tend to work as well. You can throw for them, but again, the colder temperatures are not really wanting to chase things too much. But big plastics, big swim baits as well will work. If the grouper are there, just throw those big swim baits. It'll be really good. Mud minnows will do. And again, if you got some mackerel on board, which we caught some mackerel today out there 10 miles, which kind of surprised us. But if you got mackerel on board, or there's in the bait stores, they sell some northern mackerel. I don't know what the difference is, but it's called northern mackerel in the packages. That really, really oily stuff. Huh?
They live up north.
They live up north. Yeah. Should we call them Yankee? Should we call them Yankee mackerel? But those tend to do very well on grouper as well, just because it's oily. And again, if you do catch some mackerel, some ladyfish, something a little oily, a little stinky, will tend to get those grouper as well in the wintertime, especially if you don't have um, pinfish to throw down there. You know, you still can catch them. You still can go offshore, catch you some pinfish on the sabiki or and something like that, and use them. But honestly, if you're out there catching squirrel fish, you use squirrel fish, which is great. Smaller grunts, just put you on a very small hook, very small shrimp. Get down there, get those smaller grunts. The grouper will eat them too. So there's a little bit more variety that you can do if you don't have pinfish to use for the grouper here. So, and that's what it will do. We'll just kind of
What
use
about
what
squid?
it
Do
might
you
catch.
use squid any?
I
Not
don't
much.
for grouper
Okay.
for here. Most of the time, it's just chunk baits or it's live bait. Haven't really done well on squid. I'm sure it probably works, but I really don't bring it on board too often. The only time I'll bring squid on board is if I'm going offshore and we're going for snapper, red snapper.
Gotcha.
Love to chum those things up to the boat with the squid. I just keep cutting chunks of squid, just keep throwing it out the back. And eventually some of those red snapper will come up to the bottom of the boat. And then you can kind of pick and choose which one you want, so to speak.
It's kind of funny you mentioned the mackerel. I was at the piers on Fort DeSoto over the weekend, and there was a few small mackerel being caught. I was
Mhm.
surprised.
Yeah, well, you know, over there by the Skyway and everything, you've got such deep water there that just goes out to the Gulf. So, and that's what I think what made the difference here. We were 10 miles out. And so, you know, to us, that's deep water here. So
Yeah.
any of these fish, they're going to be going offshore to those areas. But for the Tampa Bay and stuff, yeah, we've caught mackerel when I used to live there um, a lot through the wintertime. They're just in the deeper water, deeper channels, probably around the Skyway. And yeah, they hang around all summer, all winter and summer. So wouldn't be hard to catch. I'm surprised though he was catching the little tunies. Everybody calls them bonita. Michael, I saw a picture of their little toonie.
Yeah.
Everybody calls them bonita. They are a cousin of the bonita. To me, all I knew was little tunies growing up. But it's just a little different variety of them because the bonita are over there on the East Coast, and we've got the little tunies in the Gulf. And it may be the
Oh,
same fish, but that's what they've called them all as long as I can remember, little tunies.
you ever use that for grouper bait?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Get a few of those, get some chunks and throw that down there. Yeah, that's good bait. Any of that oily stuff, they love it. Um, any areas in inshore Port Richey or Hudson to take some family? Usually only fishes offshore. Um, well, Honeymoon Island area, I would believe about this time would probably do pretty good. Again, what you want to look for there is just you're trying to look for the warmer waters. You're trying to look where the sun kind of beats in. If you're going into any of the canals around the docks, it's something that in Tampa Bay works. We did a show last month doing the same thing. Any of those canals, go inside those canals where it's protected from the wind. You got some sun beating in there. If you got some mangroves or some docks, just pitch some shrimp on some jig heads around those in the Newport Richey and Hudson area. Just find those little creeks and tributaries you can get up to, depending on what size boat you have. But that's probably going to be your best bet for inshore around that area, Newport Richey, Hudson. Otherwise, I would say near Honeymoon Island, you might find some mackerels on the outside there. Just depends on how far or where you want to go with it. But I would say my safe bet would be go into the canals at this time of year just because the water temperature is so cold. That's where those fish are going to hang.
And be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be stealthy.
Very stealthy. Yeah. Not a lot of banging around the boat, especially like today where we had very calm winds. And that sun was beating out there. You know, there's no splash or anything else like that. Any little bump on a boat's just going to echo through that canal.
Mhm.
So just be very, very cautious and quiet, and you should do pretty good. But yeah, All right. Well, we got one more, and that'll be my report from today. We can throw that up there, Ahota. Hey guys, Captain Mike here in Crystal River. This morning, we are running out in the fog and the overcast conditions. We're going to go hunt for some sheep's head today. Hopefully I will get some pictures and maybe some video of it, send it with this report. But since this weather system has come in, it's kind of changed a lot of the fishing here. Things have slowed down quite a bit. Water temperatures about upper 50s, lower 60s. And a lot of these fish are either in the river or they are way back in the back country. So you kind of have to time your fishing with a higher tide so you can get to that back country. Most of what we've caught recently are trout in the river. There's plenty of them in here. You have to go through a few dinks to get some of your better fish, but just kind of jigging them around on some of the outcroppings of rocks that we have here. Especially tide going out seems to be the better bite than the tide coming in. But just slowing your presentation down. Just with a jig on a shrimp on a jig seems to be the best way to get those. You're going to do a lot of retying due to the rocks and everything else like that, but the river is definitely producing, along with some mangroves and sheep's head. It's just that time of year where all these fish kind of congregate into the river. And you can catch your limit of fish. It's going to take some time, and it's going to be a little slow going. Redfish, again, they're back in the back country, so unless you can get back there, redfish are a little hard to come by, especially since we haven't had any sun. So I don't have too many redfish in the pictures or anything else like that. Been mainly kind of focusing on sheep's head, mangrove snapper, and trout. But I do know some of the redfish are in the back country if you can get back there. Mud boats, airboats, stuff like that. Just finding those deeper holes and using shrimp as well, you'll definitely find those redfish out there. So today, like I said, we're going to go out for some sheep's head, a bunch of my buddies here, and we're going to see where they're at. I know there's some sheep's head in the backcountry as well, but we're trying to see. February is usually that time of year where we get a lot of sheep's head in, so we're just kind of going out to figure out where they're at. Other than that, stay warm. Happy New Year, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida. Hey, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. What a good looking guy.
Yeah. I will say a little bit about today's report out there. I mean, we were 10 miles out and we were catching these trout. Every trout we caught was over 21 inches.
Yeah, they were
We
really
only kept one trout today out of all four of us. One trout we kept. And we caught some studs. I think the biggest one I caught was about 25. And it was just we were on a wreck out there, and we weren't fishing directly in the wreck. And this is something for the Crystal River area. If you have a rock that you're on, or a wreck, or whatever you're fishing on, cast around that as well. And that's what I started to do. Everybody was kind of concentrated on the spot, and I started casting around the area, and I caught the first trout. And once we did that, my buddy Andrew, he's caught them out there before. He's like, oh, they're here. So we started casting away from the structure we were on, and we were catching them one right after. I think we let go about 15 or so trout, and the bite wasn't massive, but just kind of jigging around with that shrimp. And I mean, every one we pulled in was a monster. It was good. And it was nice to see that. Just because up here our trout population, especially in the flats during the warmer months, is not as good as it has been in the past years. Not sure of overpressure or the water quality, or the fact that there's been a couple places north of here and south of here that the grasses have sustained some damage due to construction and pollution and everything else like that, which was a major spawning area for a lot of these trout. So it was nice to see at least we have some good quality trout way out there 10 miles out. It means the species is going to, survive, and it's probably just going to take some time for them to acclimate to everything. But it was good. Hey, Misty's on here, my buddy. So yeah, it was good fishing. It was a great time. We caught a couple of nice sheep's head out there. And again, the sheep's head, especially, none of the sheep's head we caught were on the rock. It was out in the perimeter. So make sure if you're on a rock, on a structure, or whatever else like that, you're going to find some that are right on it, but cast around out to the outskirts of whatever you're on, because more 9 times out of 10, you're going to find the grouper, you're going to find trout, you're going to find everything else just kind of pulled away from the structure. Sometimes they do that because they know a boat's coming, they pull off. Sometimes that's just where they hang out. So just be mindful of that. If you're on some structure, start casting about, because you never know what you can find. And that's where we found the mackerel. I mean, we got kind of tired of getting cut off for the mackerel. We caught quite a number of them. I think we had like 6 or 7 mackerel we kept. We're going to do some smoked mackerel fish dip. We're all going to get together and have that fish, all the fish we caught today, a fish fry. We caught a bunch of grunts. All those were nice grunts. We didn't get any mangroves here, but I forgot to send the other picture with my clients on Saturday when it was blowing like stink and everything else. We brought in about 9 mangrove snapper, which were nice. Caught those in a little secret spring I have, and because those fish were kind of stacked up from that cold weather and everything, they were stacked up in one of the springs that kind of pushes out that warm water. And we caught some sheep's head, we caught some mackerel. Mangrove snapper out of that thing. We sat there for about a half hour, just one right after the other. It was quite fun. So it's
Mike, what was the water depth where you were catching those big trout?
So those trout, probably at the time we were there, it was about 8 foot, maybe 8 to 10 foot. So, and again, it was negative tide out, so the water was really low compared to normal. But I think the average depth there is anywhere between 10 to 14 feet. So it's, but again, 10 miles out, Crystal River is one of those areas that every mile you go out, you might gain a foot. So it kind of is in that area. And it just happens to be a nice little wreck that we know, and it worked out. And again, we kind of were on top of the wreck because we were thinking the sheep's head were going to there. We were kind of looking and everything, and didn't really see anything on top of it. Everything was out and around. So, but again, that was 10 miles out, and still just 10 foot of water. So it takes us a while to get some deep water here, just like Steinhatchee. So, yeah.
So if you pulled up and just scanned the actual rock pile, you might not have seen anything on your scanner.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, and it happens quite often. You pull, and that's why if you do know a rock, a reef, structure, whatever you have out there, one of my things that I do is I'll know where it's at. I will slow that boat about 100 yards away from it, put my trolling motor on it, and slowly creep up to it. As I'm creeping up, I may be fishing and popping things around, but I'm going to try to stay off of that rock or wreck as much as possible. Again, sheep's head, they don't really care too much. They'll still hang around it. They won't spook off like most other fish. So it really didn't matter too much on that part. But again, we also knew that, Andrew knew that there were some trout that usually hang out on the outskirts of it anyway. So one way or the other, we were going to catch something.
Well, if you're fishing 8 or 10 feet, you better be pulling up in the trolling motor.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you run up on it and just, try to run over it, try to look for it on your down scan or anything else like that, more than likely you're going to push those grouper. If there's grouper there, you're going to push them into the rock or under the ledge. They're going to stay there for a while because they know you're there.
Yeah.
Or a lot of these other fish are just going to scatter away, and you're going to be fishing a rock. And there's nothing here. Well, there is. They've just moved off of it because you disturbed it. So sneak up on those things as much as you can. That's the best way to do that. It works numerous times. The only time I roll up on a rock is if I really want to see what it is. I don't know anything about it. I want to look and see what the structure is, how it's laying, if there's any ledges. But I'll run up on it, but I'm not fishing it. I'm just looking at it to make sure. Then I'll put my notes in my little GPS there So the next time I go there, say, okay, there's a ledge on the north end, west end, whatever, so I can set my boat up correctly so I can fish it the next time.
Makes a lot of sense.
So just all those, yeah, just, and again, it's shallow water here. May not have that issue in Tampa Bay or, really offshore when you're doing 30 foot or something like that. But in the shallow water reefs, take your time, slow approach it, and you'll probably do better at catching your fish that way.
Well, I mean, the bay is shallow, outside of the shipping channel.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And again, if you see those rock piles, approach them slowly. Just take your time and fish up to them, because not every fish is going to be sitting on top of that rock pile.
well, and
They're
they
gonna be
move
moving
too.
around.
They're always swimming.
Huh?
They're always swimming and moving.
They are, and they'll move around. They'll just use that structure as just kind of a home base, the home point, in case they need it for whatever reason. But they're going to be hanging out feeding somewhere else. So, yeah, I think that was about it, pretty much, for this week. But yeah, they were hitting very, very picky today. Or some of the ones that we did get, the sheep's head, just very, very light touch. And that's where we were talking about using those smaller shrimp. Tends to work a little bit better, because a lot of times it was just your rod was just sitting there, and all of a sudden you just feel this, maybe again,
Yeah.
and you just got to pull, because that's them. They're just pecking
Well,
at it very, very deeply.
Those trout are very, very respectable no matter where you fish. Those are
Oh,
nice trout.
hmm Yeah.
Anybody that fishes would be happy.
Yeah, it was nice. It was great to catch a bunch. Yeah, no, it's good. The only thing is, because they're so big, you can only keep one. So it's not like a place that you can take a bunch. You can take them to catch a whole bunch of them, but you're only taking one back.
Yes, I'd rather
So-
catch them too big and throw them back than too small and throw them back.
Right. Yeah. But no, it was a good day, and like I said, it warmed up. The sun came out. We tried a little inshore as well. We went back into a little creek to find some reds. We found some small ones. Again, fishing a sawgrass in a bank that was, dark mud that had been warmed up for a while, and late in the afternoon. And we caught a few small reds, caught a couple small sheep's head out of there, and one decent trout. And the trout I did catch there, when you pull it up, was just cold, almost like it came out of a cooler, just ice cold. So it just tells you, even in those little creeks in the back creeks, that water's it's just cold.
I
So
got a
you have to
question
slow
for
things down.
I got a question
Yeah.
for you, Mike. You mentioned mud minnows. I call them creek chubs. Where do you get yours? Do you buy them?
So here, well, we got a couple things. A lot of the bait stores have them. We've got a few of the bait guys that goes out and they catch them in their cages, and then they bring them to the bait stores and sell them, and then you can buy them directly from the bait stores. We also have some friends who have some traps out that are local, and
Okay.
we'll get them from them as well. So you can catch them yourself. You're just using a little different, smaller mesh type pinfish trap, or those tubes. You
Uh-huh.
see them, in Bass Pro and Walmart and stuff. Those tube type bait catchers, those work really well for mud minnows. Mud
don't-
minnows are pretty smart. They can get back out of some of those bigger traps. So you try to find the smaller mesh. You try to find the smaller holes where they can get in there and they won't get back out.
I don't see them at all the bait shops in the Tampa area, but it's one
Yeah.
of my favorite baits because they are so hardy. That is the
They are.
toughest bait fish out there, and you can
Mhm.
buy
They
them,
are.
and they will last for weeks.
They do.
I live
And
on the
a
water.
lot of times,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of times we'll have them in our live wells. We'll leave them in the live wells, just put an aerator in there, and a week later they're still kicking, no problem.
It's amazing. It's the toughest fish, and they sometimes they seem a little expensive at the bait shop. Then you got to put it in the context of, that fish is not going to die.
No.
He's going to live until you catch a fish with him.
Correct. Yeah, they do. So, well, thank you all for watching. Our hour is up. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Thank you,
Cap-
Ron, for stepping in this evening. Appreciate it, sir.
No problem. Thank you. And Sergio will be back next week.
Sergio will be back next week. Y'all have a good week. Be safe. And God bless all.
Thank you.